Good evening, McQuaid. It's a pleasure to welcome you here tonight to Rock Brewing Company. A few months ago, we had the idea at the advancement office to bring McQuaid to you at home by involving us in some cooking shows. So you may remember that Father Roselli and I cooked up some chutney for Thanksgiving, and Father Roselli made some cookies for Christmas, and we sent those out live to you at home. That was a lot of fun, but then we also thought maybe our young alumni would like something a bit different. And what did we stumble upon but the idea of beer and making beer? So that brings us tonight to Rock Brewing Company with Chris Spinelli from the class of '04, who'll teach you a little bit about what it means to make beer, and then join us up at his bar for a little quaff with some friends to take some more of your questions from home. So welcome again, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Spinelli from the class of '04. I am also the co-founder and co-owner of Rock Brewing Company here in the heart of downtown Rochester. We started back in 2011, and we're coming up on our 10th anniversary this summer. And today, I'd like to talk to how we make beer and some of the processes that go into making beer. So when you're starting brewing, the four basic ingredients that you need to know about are hops, malt, water, and yeast. These are the four main ingredients that we use to actually make beer. It's a very simple process that comes together mainly based around the most important aspect is the yeast. So what we do is that we'll take the malt here, we'll crack it, and essentially create it into a lightly cracked, not fully milled husk that we'll transfer into our mash tun. After you've taken and cracked the grains, you'll transfer them into a mash tun. Of course, it's too much. The mash tun is essentially, I like to call it a giant tea bag. Essentially what you're doing here is you're taking a mixture of cracked grains, and different grains add different things. They add certain body aspects, certain coloring, certain flavoring to the beer. You'll put it in here, and you'll steep it with hot water from our hot liquor tank. And essentially what you're trying to do is create a watery, sugary mash called wort. From that, we'll create the beginning stages of what we like to call beer. Now, once you've gotten that sugary water called wort, we'll transfer over here to our boil kettle. This is the portion of the part where we take and we boil that wort to create some simple sugars that will be later used by the yeast to create alcohol. In this portion, this is when we add the hops. So at this point, we're starting to add hops. We add some hops early in the mash. We'll create more of a bittering effect. Later in the boil, we'll create more of a floral effect. So depending on what type and style of beer you're doing will depend on when you add your hops. At the end of that, we'll crash the boil down and cool it down so that we can transfer it through our heat exchange, which will ultimately lead over to our fermenters. Once we've transferred it from our heat exchange so that it's cooled down to roughly room temperature or maybe a little bit colder depending on if we're working on a lager, we'll put it into our fermenter here and we'll add the yeast after it's in there, allowing it to then sit inside the fermenter for the course of 2 to 3 weeks for an ale, 4 to 6 for a lager, and that's when the yeast will break down the sugars into CO2 and ethanol, creating beer. From there, we'll let it sit, do all of its fermentation, do some rest. We'll crash it at the end, making sure that we get all the yeast and other particles in suspension out of suspension, and we'll transfer it through either our filter or directly into our bright tank to help finish the process of making beer. And now we're at the final step. At this point, this tank is used to force CO2 into the beer and create that bubbly effect that we have grown to love in the United States with the carbonation. At this point, we'll either do two options. We will directly fill it into our kegs and put it on tap at local bars and restaurants, including our tap room up front, or we'll put it into cans, which is where our product has been selling so well, and we'll sell it out to Wegmans or through here at the tap room, and you can take a can home with you to enjoy with friends. And now that I've given you guys a quick introduction to craft beer, which I warn you, just be careful, it becomes quite the lifestyle hobby that takes over everything. We're now going to move up front to get into some of the nuances and drink some live beer with some friends and talk about craft beer and answer some of your questions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jack Milko, class of 2016. Really excited to be here tonight.
Hi, guys. Ian Gonzalez, also class of 2016. Looking forward to drinking some beers with you guys.
Berg,
Corey Parker, class of 2013, and I am the Director of Enrollment Management at McQuaid right now. Happy to be here.
I don't know. Do you guys want the mic?
I guess we're using this mic now. I'm no longer being mic'd up. So hopefully everyone heard Chris Spinelli, Rock Brewing. Glad to have you guys here tonight. Hopefully some of you out there are looking to get into craft beer. I'm coming up on my 10th year on this journey. I've been having a lot of fun doing it over the years. Obviously this year's throwing some challenges in for us, as you guys can only imagine. Hopefully some of you guys came in, picked up the packs that we were doing. We had a couple different beers that you could try. So we have a couple beers around the table with us tonight. And if not, we also have some at Wegmans. And, you know, I'm going to turn it over, see if someone's got a question for me.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of equipment back here. Just wondering how you got started, because you obviously didn't have that all to begin with.
So brewing for me, I had the fun pleasure of starting as a home brewer back in 2009, hanging out around the house. My mom ultimately bought me and a friend a homebrew kit, and we took that just a little too far. My business partner to this day is my mom. My dad helps out. It's a whole family affair. But yeah, we started off homebrewing out of the kitchen, and from there we decided to develop a business model and found a location here at 56 South Union Street, and then opened up in June of 2011. Anyone else got a question?
I'll take the question. Sure. So you've been here for several years. It certainly has changed over the years. Can you talk a little bit about some of the recent changes that you've made in the facility itself?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So you've obviously been here a number of times. Saw it when we used to be on one half of the building. So right before the pandemic, we were lucky enough to team up with FLX Wienery out of Dundee. They do amazing food, hospitality. And so we decided that we were going to expand and take over the whole building. So we pretty much tripled our footprint, tripled our tap room. We now have a full food menu with the FLX Wienery. We have a full bar, and really kind of making this a total experience. So if you're coming out, we're not just craft beer anymore. We have beer, we have some wine, we have some cocktails, and amazing food. So you get that full experience of being at a brewery and what that means.
I know we're here for the beer. Can you just touch a little bit on the food you guys got here?
So if you guys like wieners, we've got it for you. So FLX Wienery, they focus on essentially the menu's broken down into a protein. So we do red hot, white hots, bratwurst, beef burgers, carrot dogs, and black bean burgers. From there, we have a number of menus where we add a number of different toppings. So we have the kraut, which is sauerkraut, mustard, and some herbs with some goat cheese, to the my favorite, which is the peanut butter burger. So it's peanut butter, bacon, American cheese, and spicy onion rings. Highly recommend it. Try peanut butter on a burger. You won't regret it. And then we do a number of different shareables. We have some poutine. We have some deep fried cheese curds are my favorite. We even do specialty milkshakes here. So right now we have a limited menu. As you can all imagine, we're trying to get reopened, just coming out of the orange zone. Well, we have tables 6 feet apart. You have enough space in here, and we have a couple of all the stuff you need for sanitizing tables. So definitely come down and join us.
So, Chris, the beer I'm having right now, it's really good. I like it. It's called Black is Beautiful. Would love for you to share the story behind that, because I think it's a really cool story considering what we've experienced in the country over the last year or so.
All right, there we go. Yeah, that's a lot easier. So, Black is Beautiful is actually a really unique concept that came out of Withered Soul out of Austin. So they're very focused on pointing out, especially in this industry, one of the things that we're working on is diversity, inclusivity, and really making it something that is broader to everyone. And so Black is Beautiful was brought up with everything that's been going on in the world and injustice and equality. And so they came up with a base recipe of the beer and then send it out to every brewery with the labels and allow you to then play on that beer your own way. And so what we did is we took the base recipe and then added cholaka, so real chocolatey notes to balance out that roastiness. And then a portion of the proceeds we will then donate back to a local group focused on equality and social justice. So it's a really great thing. It's one of 3 or 4 different beers this year that the industry has done. There's Curtains Up beer that is focusing on the arts industry. There's All Together beer, which is focusing on craft brewing community together. So really trying to use our power through the cans that we have, through the marketing and the media that is, to really speak something more than just, hey, we're making beer here.
So you touched there on some of the tasting notes you looked at when developing this beer. Could you talk about what you look for when developing some of these other beers you have?
Yeah, so the beer making process is a fun one. So somewhere around here is our head brewer, Nick. He's a funny character. We kind of just play around with it. So obviously there's key styles in the industry that are much more popular than others. The New England style IPA is very big right now. IPAs in general tend to dominate the market. So we try to look at what the style trends are, and then we come up with, okay, here's a few examples, and this is where we want to go with it. And we do some tasting, sampling, and then ultimately come up with a recipe to see how it turns out. We have a couple fun different styles that we do. On this table right now, we have our Disco series, which is a rotating pale ale. So we always change up the hops in that. It's the same base beer, but then we change the hops. So then get a sense of what do people like in that hop profile? Do they like those hops? The sour, which is the Unicorn Mafia here, one of my favorite of our sour series. Again, same base sour, but then we switch it up and we add a different fruit each time. So this one is Blueberry Pink Guava. On draft right now, we have Thunder Puck, which is a strawberry and Meyer lemon sour. So same beer, but totally different in the sense of those flavor profiles from the different fruits.
So, Chris, I got to be honest. I don't know a whole lot about beer. So when you gave me the Disco can here, the first thing I noticed is the sweet design here. So I kind of noticed that about all your guys' cans, whether I'm at Wegmans or here. Who does the designs? How do you guys get your ideas? Because you guys do such a great job, and it always catches my eye.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough with the cans. We work with a local artist. Her name's Ellen of We Design Co. My bad. She essentially does the base top of the cans, and then from there we'll work with her on different artists for the actual illustrations in there. So each can now is 16 ounce. We give you our core brand, which is Rock Brewing, and the logo and the name, and then around it we let them play around. So Ellen actually did the Hellas and the Unicorn with her brother, and the logarithm. A friend of ours, we did the Disco series, and essentially, some of them I just let them do. Like the Hellas and Lager, I let them come up with a cool idea and play with it. Unicorn, I was like, I want 4 unicorns in like a mafia-looking Cadillac, black suits, just going down the street, and that's what they came up with. And then the Disco one, I was like, listen, I want all the different mythical creatures that we use to name the disco on a disco floor playing around, and that's how that comes. So anyone out there who is looking to be on a can or wants to design one, hit us up at info@Rock Brewing Co. We're always looking for new artists.
Beyond just the cool designs, some of the names you got for these beers are pretty crazy. At what point does the name come before you design the beer, after? Does it go with the can design?
So this is always the challenging part, the chicken or the egg. Some of the beers, we have names that we put aside because we obviously have to brand label registration and do certain stuff. So I'm always like, you guys, get me names. Just come up with names, figure out the beers later. Sometimes we make the beer and we're like, this is the name. More often than not, we come up with the beer and then we figure out the name. So we're constantly developing different names. They're sometimes real crazy. Sometimes they're just boring. But you know, we have one rule. There's one rule. If you want to name a beer, as long as you can ask Patty, you can have it, right? If you can't ask my mom, if you're too embarrassed to ask her about the name, you can't have the name. So that's the rule, which tends to weed out some of the inappropriate stuff.
So one of my favorite things about Rock Brewing, and something that's kept me coming back year after year, has been the diversity in the offerings that you give to your customers, right? I can come here and I can have anything from a New England to a sour to a stout to really anything under the sun, whereas, you know, some other breweries might focus on one thing over another. You seem to be a jack of all trades. What led to that brewing strategy, and what tends to be some of your favorite beers that you brew today?
So yeah, that is a great point. There are a lot of breweries that can get narrowed in to specific styles, and you know, I say this all the time. There are some breweries that wine culture, really excited. They make one style, but it sells. And if we had that and we had the lines, trust me, all my tanks would be filled with that. So it's definitely great that there's such a diverse population of craft breweries. We kind of got in earlier than most. We're coming up on 10 years, which doesn't seem like a lot, but especially in the industry, when we opened up, there were 1,500 breweries in America. Today, there's 8,500. So, you know, we never got stuck into one specific, this style, this is our genre. Nick's really creative and really focuses on trying to make a beer and then perfect it. So we try a bunch of different things. Some of the things that we really are best known for are lagers. They are my personal favorite. The Logarithm and the Hellas, two of my favorite beers. And we've gotten known for our crisp, clean lagers. But at the same time, like on our board right now, you're right. We have a New England style IPA. We have a sour. We have 3 different stouts. We have 2 different, we have West Coast style IPA. So we really want to offer that broad range to really give you a better experience. And not to say that any other brewery isn't an amazing experience, but that's what they're known for. And that's cool. But here we want you to come in and really get the full culture of craft beer.
So, Chris, kind of more to direct this to those at home, how can someone start making their own beer like you did back in the day?
So if you want to get into craft beer and home brewing, it's not too hard. You're looking at a couple $100 investment, but it will suck you in if you're not careful. So, you know, for us, the way we started was homebrew in hydroponics. It's their main store is over off of Clay Road by the regional market. And so there's a great place to start. And essentially you can go in there. They do a great job of teaching people, or at least helping them get started. There's also Unihaw, which is the upstate New York Homebrewers Association here in Rochester. They do a lot of training, help teach people. And, you know, those are kind of the people that we learn from. But you can go there and you can buy the kits, and they're going to cost you, you know, $50, $60. But then when you add in the boil pot that you're going to need and a few of the other extra stuff, you're looking at a couple $100 investment. But it's a lot of fun. You're talking about 6 to 8 hour day. So if you got a nice weekend, hanging out with a couple friends, grab a case of beer, buy your kit and get started from there and just follow the instructions. At the end of the day, you're spending a lot of time cleaning. Like 95% of brewing is cleaning. And then the rest of it's watching water boil. So just so you know what you're getting into. So my wife came and brewed with us once, and she was all excited. And at the end of it, I was like, hey, you want to come back again? She's like, no. She's like, that's great. But that was a lot of just standing around watching water boil. I was like, yeah, that's why we drink so much.
Just a quick follow-up question. Do you remember the first batch you brewed, and is that still in the repertoire today?
So the first beer that we brewed was a generic pale ale. We do not still have that beer in the repertoire. There's really only one beer that is from our original like home brewing days, and it's a beer near and dear to my heart. We only bring it out usually once a year. It's the Cullinan's Irish Revival. It's our Irish Red. It's actually named after my grandfather. So we bring it out around St. Patty's Day. Really just perfect example of what an Irish Red should taste like. Nice amber, caramel, a little bit of earthy bitterness. However, they're not as popular, so we bring it out for one point of the year, and when it's gone, it's gone. So yeah, we don't keep a lot of the old recipes. When Nick came on, our head brewer, he joined in 2014 and replaced my original business partner and brewer. We had to start all over again. We essentially were like, let's take what we have, let's rebuild the brand, let's focus on what we want to do, what Nick wants to do. And, the big beers that came out of that were our IPA, the Whoop-Ass Double IPA, which is still our #1 seller. And so, we've learned to evolve over the years.
Sorry. I actually forgot my question. I had it, though. So one of the things that I was wondering is, I'm always excited to come here and hear what's coming down the pipeline. What are you excited about with this upcoming year? And both in terms of the brewery, as well as, any sneak peeks of beers that might be coming down the pipeline here?
Oh, well played. You remember what we were talking about. So for the brewery, it's our 10th anniversary. This June, we're going to celebrate 10 years. There's something special to that, especially considering when we first moved here, we were on a one-way street with a sunken highway. And currently right now I'm looking at almost 600 new apartment units and 18,000 square feet of retail coming up. So we're really in this neighborhood. And, we didn't create this neighborhood, but I surely think that we've helped bring the potential for what this neighborhood has become. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with FLX and us and really opening back up and having customers again. We miss our friends. This is a community. This is what we've always been. It's about my friends. It's my family here. And so we're looking forward to having people back and adding new people to that. In terms of beer, we have a really fun beer. We have our 10th anniversary beer that has been barrel aging for about a year now. Right over to the right of us, that we're really looking forward to. We're going to do them in the big 750 bombers. So it's a Russian Imperial Stout that's been barrel aging, and it tastes phenomenal. So we're going to hopefully bottle that this week. And then we're looking to do 3 or 4 new cans this year to keep that rotating SKU at Wegmans. So it's going to be good. I can't wait.
Yeah, you talked about some of the beers you have, not just here, but in stores and other breweries around town. Can you just touch on where some of these beers can be found, whether it be Wegmans or other breweries?
Yeah, so for us right now, our main outlet is here or at Wegmans. Tops picks us up a lot. A couple of 7-Elevens, a lot of the beer stores. You can find our canned beers. We do have a number of restaurants that pick up our beer. And we are so excited and really in this with them too, and hoping that they can come back and be strong too. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of months, and hopefully get back into, McGregor's has always been a great supporter. Dinosaur's been a great supporter. The Gatehouse. So as they open back up, we'll hopefully be there. And then, we do work with a couple of local breweries too, like Seven Stories, good friends of ours. You're actually drinking the Littering And, which is a collaboration beer that we did with them. So find some of our stuff over there sometimes, and we try to do whatever we can to help support this community. Do we have any questions from online? All right. Well, hey, if you guys feel it, we'll answer them.
I was just going to say, as a McQuaid grad, is there a specific beer that you see McQuaid grads seem to enjoy more than others? Or do we have a beer?
I don't know if we have a beer. Pretty much, I think it's if it tastes good, we'll drink it, right? Yeah. I don't know. What about you guys? Is there a favorite beer that you guys, or style that you drink?
I mean, you touched IPAs are popular nowadays. I think, a lot of my friends would be drinking this, Jack.
It's funny because when I first got here and you asked, what kind of beer do you like? I said, I really enjoy Guinness. And he said, oh, I got the perfect beer for you. And of course, this Black is Beautiful is terrific. So it's awesome.
Here you go, Tyler.
Yeah, my likes fluctuate by the day and week, but you know, I love a good barrel-aged anything, especially sours. And so, I mean, I am drinking one of the flagship sours of Rock right now. It's one of my favorites. They always do a great job with it. But at the end of the day, like you mentioned, it's really anything with alcohol in it.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I'm not a huge, I don't have a ton of beer knowledge. I'll just say, oh, I like it, I don't like it. The one thing I will say, I've never had a beer here that I didn't like. So usually when people ask me, oh, what do you know about beer? I'm like, I don't know, I like it, I don't like it. And every beer I've ever had here, I've liked. Every food I've had here, I've liked. So I definitely recommend this place to everyone. So you guys are doing an awesome job here, man. It's really been good. I did have a question, though. So I noticed kind of on the table, there's some round glasses, there's a long glass, there's a mug. What's the deal? Is that a style thing? Is there a method to the madness? Is that...
So thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate that. And like at the end of the day, I tell people, do you like the beer? Then drink it, you know. Drink good beer, but like enjoy it. For glassware, it really depends. So like this one that I'm drinking out of right now is traditionally a Pilsner style glass. Does it do significantly more to change it? Yes, there's some like flavor notes that you can get from the aroma, but it looks gorgeous. I mean, it's to highlight the clean, crisp, clear color of that beer. The Tulip Glass is usually for some IPAs, some of the bigger alcohol beers, fruited sours. They give a little bit more of aroma to them. There are IPA-specific glassware. So it kind of depends. It's just better than doing a shaker pint. Like the worst thing you can do with beer is just stick it into your traditional shaker pint. It just doesn't add the same characteristics of being in the proper glassware. Then the mugs, which is one of our favorite things here. So we do have a mug club here. It is a membership-based annual thing. You sign up, you get a number. It is yours to keep. If you renew, you get to keep your number. So it's hard to get some of the higher numbers, but people love it. It's a great way to create community, and that's where that really plays. Is a lot of mug club members know each other by their numbers, hang out with each other. Have actually hung out during quarantine, like outside of the brewery. Like we've had a couple of them where they met up in the parking lot to have a beer, like unbeknownst to us, you know, like so you know it creates this fun like community that really promotes and pushes us forward too.
So Chris, Father Judge, our president, just handed me a couple questions from the audience. First from the audience is, did you receive any formal brewing education, or was it all just self-taught?
So I have no formal brewing education. So I am a self-taught home brewer. My background and really what I do anymore at the brewery is I run all the operations and the finance. So I come from a background in economics and I have my MBA. And so like I kind of fell in love with the industry because of the economic implications of the commodities market. It deals with crops, it deals with supply and demand. And at the time, my business partner, John, was the real brewer, and I was kind of a sous chef. So I'm dangerous in the brewery, but I'm not the one riding the ship usually. Nick, our head brewer, now, he didn't have a formal education in beer. He learned it like the way a lot of brewers do. He ended up getting a job as a cellarman at Shipyard and worked all the way up to head brewer position. So he worked at Shipyard for about 4 years, CB's for a year when he moved back to Rochester, and happened to show up the day that I was like, I need a new head brewer, and he's been running it here ever since, and spends a lot of time studying. We have a number of resources. There's the Master Brewers Association. They help out the New York State Brewers Association, the National Brewers Association. So, and we're a tight-knit community. I mean, I'm friends with every brewer in Rochester. One of the hardest parts, I would say, of the pandemic is not being able to see my friends. Like, we really care for each other, and we're always helping each other out. So it's like the same brotherhood that McQuaid was, and we really take care of each other. So we miss seeing those guys.
And of course, we have another question from the audience. As a big part of McQuaid, as the five of us have experienced quite well, is Bash every March. And of course, with the last year and the upcoming year, Bash will take place virtually. So the question from the audience is, do you see create a Bash beer in the works potentially for McQuaid?
I would definitely be down doing a McQuaid Bash beer. I think we could easily make that happen, especially as we're warming up right now for getting back into full production. So I think that'd be a great idea. I obviously love McQuaid. It is opened so many doors for me. It's a Young Alumni Association board. Like, we've been on it for how many years now? I mean, a long time, yeah. So it's we're probably getting close to having to pass the torch. But you know, when McQuaid calls, I'm always there to help and interact and do what I can, because it gave me so many opportunities to be where I am today too. So.
And of course, I was just passed another note from Father Judge. Will there be a Cream Ale Festival again?
Oh, the celebration of Cream Ale. How I cannot wait till that day returns. So, as some of you may know, and many of you may not know, Rochester is known for the Cream Ale. There are very few American-style beers. This is a true American style. It was developed in the United States, and the big focus of a Cream Ale is that it has corn in it, so it gives that creaminess. So we're really good friends with all the brewers, especially Genesee, and a couple years ago, we decided to do what we called the celebration of Cream Ale. So we bought a sixtel of a Cream Ale that we asked all the local breweries. We asked 11 local breweries to make us a beer. We bought a sixtel of it. We put it on tap. And just like, you can come in, you can sample them all day. The brewers can hang out. It wasn't like a true festival. We went through all of those sixtels in about 6 hours. So we're like, oh, great success. Cool. Next year, we brought in 21 breweries. 6 hours later, we had kicked all the beer. At one point, we were kicking a sixtel every 15 minutes. It was insane. So we were going to do it again this year, and we were going to make it 35 local breweries, going as far as like Buffalo and into the southern tier a little bit. Unfortunately, with COVID, we were unable to do it. But don't worry, Celebration of Cream Ale is coming back. We have the list of breweries we're going to invite. Pretty much we invite every brewery in the downtown area. Genesee usually gets involved too. And then we start to move out from there. But it is a really fun event. We couldn't do it this year because the crowds get crazy. I mean, like, we did not expect to see that much fun and love for it. But hopefully in the next couple of years, we can turn it into something bigger in a whole back-end parking lot and go from there.
So you've talked a lot about community, be it the McQuaid community or the community of brewers here. Just wondering if you could talk about maybe the community you're building here and maybe the atmosphere people could expect when they come here.
Yeah, so community is extremely important to me. McQuaid was extremely important. The brewing community, I mean, everyone knows, like, they can give me a call. I'll help them through anything. If there's brewers out there looking to get involved or you're looking to get in the industry, like, I'm the guy. I'll help you. I'll connect you. That's what people did for me. I was lucky enough that John Erlob of Roarbox was a true mentor to me over the years, and it's helped me immensely to be able to be successful and be here today. So, that's important. And obviously we had a very unique culture in the old rock brewing setup, and but we knew we needed to grow and continue to build for the community that's in front of us. So in front of us, there's this brand new neighborhood popping up, and we wanted to make sure that people had a place where they could go get some food, get some drinks, have a great time, your neighborhood brewery. And so that's what we're always trying to be. FLX Wienery has their own hospitality take, and they're very focused on customer interactions and customer service. So that's what we're focused on, is how do we create that right balance between customer service and community in your town, brewery, bar, restaurant. So, we hope people, like, one of my favorite things is when I walk in here and I'm hanging out and I hear someone say, oh, this is my brewery. Like, let me show you around. This is my place. Like, and like, that means the world to me to hear them say that, like, they had to take ownership in the brewery. So
we've got another question from the audience. First up, we have, what is your favorite single hop or two hop combination for pale ales?
That is a very specific one. We do a number of different hops with our pale ale series, and so a lot of times we're switching them up. Like the Disco Jackalope right now, which is another one of our pale series, has Idaho 7, and that's a really fun hop that people really have been liking. I like it. If you're talking about straight up pale ales, one of my favorites of all time is still Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Their use of the Chinook and Centennial, that is the quintessential pale ale. So like I'll go to that. But my big thing is I'm huge into lagers. That's pretty much all I drink 24/7. My staff knows, like, which lager do you want, Chris? And so like the Hellas, like that has, I think it's Howard Tower hops in that one. Our Smash Pilsner, which is a single malt, single hop, is just Bohemian Pils malt and Czech Saaz hops. Like those are my hops. Those are my go-to. And then Logarithm has a really unique hop style. It is a continental hop that they took to New Zealand. And so it has all those traditional spicy earthiness with a little bit of like tropical characteristics too. So like I'm big about like lagers. So my hops are usually the more traditional continental European hops.
And we have another question from the audience as well. Do you expect Rochester to keep having more microbreweries open up, or do you see the towns outside of Rochester?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question, and it's gotten a little more complicated as the pandemic hit. The overall industry, like you would know even more at times too, the industry's changed so much. When we opened up, we were the only brewery with a tap room in downtown Rochester. Roarbox was here, and Jenny were here, but they didn't have a tap room yet. Currently today, there are 12 breweries with a tap room in downtown Rochester. I know of a 13th satellite tap room being opened up. Someone was emailing Nick and I today about tips on opening a brewery. So this explosion in craft beer hasn't changed. We're roughly, like, if you lined up 1 through 468 breweries in New York State right now, it's pushing closer to 500. We'd be somewhere in the middle 30s in our license number. So like if that gives you the kind of growth that's happened, it's not a matter of is there room or not, right? It's a matter of are there enough tap lines, right? Because at the end of the day, shelf space is getting harder and harder to find. The big regional breweries or the national breweries are struggling to keep their space with the overcrowding of local, but at the same time, they add so much in a lobbyist protection, like they take on the big guys so that the little guys actually have a chance, that, we need this balance between the old and the new, line culture versus taproom culture. I think there's a lot of room out there. I think, though, we're going to start to see some people spike off. And shockingly, the numbers coming in from the National Brewer Association and the state side, not a lot of breweries went out of business. And a lot of that has to do with like PPP and EIDL. Like that really, really helped our industry, and we need more. So please, like, thank you. Like, it really does help us. We keep a lot of people employed, especially small breweries. We're very labor inefficient. But we're going to see what happens when the bars that don't come back, right? 6 months from now, when things are back to normal and 4 or 5 bars have closed and 4 or 5 restaurants have closed, there's 12, 20, 60, 80 tap lines that are gone. And, some breweries aren't going to be able to find other ways to generate that income. And that's even why we changed. We knew that we need to adapt to be able to keep open and grow and find the best revenue stream to keep us open. So we'll see. Always willing to help. Everyone who's helped me over the years, I need to pay it forward. So if you're interested, let me know. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenging few years, I think.
Yeah, so Chris, one of the things that I always enjoy when I come here, besides the beer, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, is the food. And like you mentioned, we have a lot of different breweries around Rochester. This one always stands out to me. You mentioned the peanut butter bacon burger earlier. What made you guys, and I always get, I think it's a sauerkraut hot dog. You guys have this awesome menu of just super unique foods. What made you guys want to go that route, and kind of where do you get some of those ideas from? Because it's something that I always, when I come here, I know that I'm going to have something new that I've never had every single time, and I love that. So where do you get those ideas from?
So we're extremely fortunate to be working with Christopher Bates out of FLX Winery, FLX Table, FLX Hospitality Group. So Christopher Bates is a master chef, master sommelier, and he came up with the idea of the winery. And we got connected through one of my dad's former students. And we were like, hey, I don't want to run a restaurant. And they're like, well, we like what you do, and we want to come to Rochester and the brewing world. Let's team up. And so we kind of got connected, and they really just have this great hospitality arm. Amazing chefs, James Beard Award winners, USA Today, #1 new restaurant in America in 2016. So we have a great team around us, and we're lucky just to be a part of it. So I am getting I think we have to wrap it up. I think we're at the end of our time. But really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you, McQuaid, for coming in here tonight. And hopefully everyone had a lot of fun, and we'll hopefully see you again soon for a pint. Cheers.